The GOAT is back.
He really is.
The GOAT is back as well. You guys watched some of it. I thought we were going to watch it live on the pod. I didn't realize that it was a whole 20-minute piece.
Yeah. There's like 9 minutes if we want to try to watch, but it's just, he's the best ever.
Yeah. He really is.
He's the best to ever do political comedy.
Yeah, what do you think it is? Like, if you were to break it down.
He is willing to upset people. Like, liberals are upset that he basically says Biden is not mentally fit to be president.
Yeah.
He says both candidates suck, and then he makes a point at the end, which is like, he really cares, man. That's the other thing. Our boy Robbie Slovic wrote with him on other projects, and he was like, this guy's the truth. He's completely honest, and like he'll get really riled up in these conversations. And this is after he left Daily Show like a year or two later. He was like, you see why I had to leave, right?
Yeah, it's just all encompassing.
It's just like he cares so much. And at the end, he makes a point, which is like, this idea that we just need to have somebody who can beat Trump or whatever, like, if the barbarians are at the gate, you need Conan to beat them back. Mental acuity is actually incredibly important for Biden. It's not just something we can gloss over so we win. You need a fucking strong leader. And no other, anybody on a comedy show is going to say that in the main legacy media or whatever. They're just not.
I think he also wasn't just saying we need a strong man in office, because I think that could be skewed as well. He was saying we are Conan, and we'll never stop being Conan. We have to be engaged, and that's what he was saying at the end.
Oh, well, either way, he's saying like, this is more, you can't just blindly be like, no, Biden, because he's not Trump, which is no other political comic pundit would say on either side.
Yeah. And he's like, I think what Cassette is saying, he's like, your job isn't to just make this one choice and then back off.
Yeah.
Like, your job is to be politically engaged and understand what's going on before this election and after this election. That's your duty to your country, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the man.
Yeah. I
gotta
feel like the thing that sets him apart is like point of view.
Yeah.
Which is the thing that's kind of like underappreciated, I feel like, because everyone kind of feels like, oh yeah, everyone has a point of view. But I think people's point of view is more skewed by other people's point of view than we care to admit.
So
yeah, that's true.
I think what you can develop a point of view and have a lot of confidence in it when you're really well-read in the topic that you're discussing. It's so easy to have a point of view when you know everything. And I think he genuinely likes consuming this stuff. Like, he likes reading about these bills. Like, he likes reading about what's happening in Congress. He likes reading about foreign policy shit. And when you actually digest all the information, you can have a really interesting, nuanced take on it. Like, you could tell when Vivek was here, he really knew what he was talking about. Yeah. Maybe you disagree with his way of providing some sort of solution or change, but you can't say that he hasn't read up about it. And he probably knows more than a lot of the people that he was debating against on that stage. And I think a lot of people that have these point of views that we don't respect as much is they just kind of fall under the umbrella or the shield of the party.
Yeah.
Like, as long as I echo the sentiments of the party, the other side will be pissed off, but the people in my party who watch my show and support me, they're going to keep supporting me. They're going to say I'm the smartest guy ever. They're going to be... John is so nuanced in his thinking, he's going to piss off both parties, and the people are still going to go, nah, he got a good point.
Yeah.
But that takes digesting lots of information, and most people don't want to do that.
And
most people don't want to do that. Most people don't have that skill set, and then to do it funny, like
that's crazy.
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like, how do you have that many talents? And
the confidence it takes to say, maybe I alienate the people that support me the most, but this is how I feel, and I'm nuanced enough in my knowledge that I can stand it.
Yeah, I do think it's almost easier to be funny when you're researched in it.
So here's why I 100% agree with you. The concern of saying something that's really offensive or wrong or ignorant or exposes your lack of knowledge is zero when you know all the things. So you feel really funny being sarcastic or taking a tone about something or misdirecting in some crazy way because you're so like skilled and refined in your research about a topic that you can't be exposed. I think that when you don't know a lot about it and you make some little joke, you talk, let's say it's me, I'm talking about Kansas City Chiefs, they should have had this person, and then you go, he hasn't played on that team in 2 years. What are you talking about? Now you're frozen.
100%. I would never make like racial jokes before I knew people of that race and like felt comfortable with it. Then I was hanging with a sick guy and he was talking about like, yeah, man, I love to jog. And he was wearing a pug. And I was like, in this thing? You can't wear this pug. You got to wear the sport pug. And then but I felt so comfortable because like I knew at least a little bit about who it was to not feel so dumb. So like knowing about the shit, I'm like, oh yeah, I can make jokes about it because I know who it's gonna piss off, and I don't give a fuck about pissing off those people because they're wrong.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. What I was getting to was he's actually able, like he's actually funny. Like his delivery is actually funny.
Some people just aren't funny.
You know,
I agree with you.
Yeah, so
it's a
that's-
random combination.
to
Like
have all that.
having someone who's like interested enough in the politics, interested enough in the international relations, willing to do the research and read about it, and isn't autistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that combo
Yeah.
is very.
He's one of one.
Go to prizepicks.com, man, and use the promo code Schultz, SCHULZ, and they're going to match your initial deposit bonus up to $100, okay? It's the easiest fucking thing on the planet. I genuinely mean this. They're
So
going to
fun.
give you these situations where you basically choose more or less. With basketball, more or less rebounds. They're going to put it out there. You choose more or less.
And you know, fantasy, you got to like set your lineups
Too
every
much.
week.
Too much
It's
of an
an
effort.
exhausting-
It's too
Play
much
this
of an
wherever
effort.
you want to.
Yeah, it's incredible. Anyway, prizepicks.com. Shout out to y'all. Let's get back to the show.
I think sometimes people go both sides to be inclusive, but I think like to genuinely go both sides means to think so critically about the issue to understand the exposure points on both sides. Like,
the
'cause
thing.
sometimes I'll see political comics do that. They'll be like, you know, this side does this, but this side also, and it's like, oh, you're like kind of reaching because you don't know enough about the issue.
Yeah, it's like if you actually understand the issue, you don't even need to go at both sides. The truth will do that.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Like the truth will expose both sides
Because the truth is somewhere.
in the middle.
Yeah.
So if you seek the truth and you write jokes about it, it will naturally make fun of the right for being this exaggerative about that, and then make fun of the left for having empathy for one thing and none for the other. It will just naturally happen. And I think John just knows what he's talking about, and maybe doesn't talk about the things that he's unaware of. And you have guys like, and I'm gonna give him some slack. I'm gonna cut him some slack here, but like a guy like Trevor Noah is like, he's not from America. How much can he really care about like researching random bills that are being passed by Congress when you're like fucking models in LA? You know what I mean? Like Jon Stewart's in his 50s. Like that's what his life is.
Yeah.
Put on the spectacles, read about that next
On a
bill.
farm in Jersey.
There we go.
Yeah.
So I see why it's a hard fucking thing to do what he's doing. Any of these journalists, if they're doing it right, it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
It's way easier to just go, I'm a Republican, here are the talking points.
Yeah.
I'm a lefty, here are the talking points. And it's easier emotionally. You get no pushback from your team. And your team is the one who's paying you. Where they're watching the show, they're buying the products that you're pushing. It's the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
But getting pushback from both,
Yeah. Yeah, I almost feel like being like politically secular, you have a way higher obligation to like create that political code for yourself. You know what I mean? Like I think sometimes people have this idea like people that are like apolitical get to like just cop out of the whole thing, which a lot of them do.
Yeah.
But if you are one of these people that's like, oh, I'm not on either side. I think those people have more of an obligation to try to like learn about what they believe should be happening politically.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that
I
don't
love copping out.
But like,
My favorite thing.
it's people like, because I feel that way, and I did this for a long time, where I was like, yeah, I'm not really in either one, so I just kind of won't. But I think it's people like me that need to be more research because I have to make up this political code for myself.
you have to justify why you're not taking a side.
Yeah,
Everybody else feels incredibly justified in their positions.
yeah, because they can just sort of couch out of the party.
Yeah, and they genuinely believe that the party is right. They're not consuming anything from the other side. So everything they're consuming tells them that they're right. That's what they feel. They're like, yeah, this makes total sense. And the information that they're getting doesn't include any of the things that make the other side look realistic. So you're just consuming everything that makes total sense. And then you come along, you're like, I'm kind of in the middle. They're like, how could you be in the middle? Like, what are you, a maniac?
Yeah.
So you have to defend that in the middle position. And then all of a sudden when you do, they go, oh, it's pretty reasonable to be in the middle.
But it's hard to push through. It's like the Dunning-Kruger shit. Like, you know nothing.
I don't know what that is.
Like, it's like this idea, like, you know nothing, saying you're really confident about the thing. You know what I mean? So like, hey, should kids be transgender? Like, if you don't know anything about it, most people are like, no, fuck that.
Yeah.
And if you learn a little bit, then not that specific issue, but any issue, you learn a little bit, and then you realize you actually know nothing.
Yeah, so now you're
And
like,
then,
fuck.
and then you got to push through that uncomfortable feeling of knowing nothing to then actually become an expert in something.
Yeah.
So you go from like supreme confidence to supreme insecurity to then the most prime confidence.
Yeah.
You got to push through that middle part of being like, oh, I don't know anything about this issue.
And it's easier to tap out.
Yeah.
Especially like, if you have money, if you have money where you can protect your family, reading a bill to know what's really going on is retarded.
Or the opposite. If you got no money, also retarded.
Yeah.
Also retarded.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying, like, you gotta have a true passion for like sitting there and like going through Nancy Pelosi's emails and shit. You gotta
That's why
really
John's the
care.
best.
That's why he's the best.
Yeah.
Because he'll actually do it. Where the average person is like, do I want to stay up from 6 till 9 and read all this, or do I want to go watch a Knicks game with my kid? Now, I'm not saying that I'm not saying John won't do that. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he organizes his life so he can do all those things. But the average person that doesn't have the show is going, I'm watching that fucking Knicks game.
Yeah.
I'm not reading this whole fucking day. And I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Maybe we should be a little bit more politically activated, but shit.
Yeah, that's why John's doing it 1 day a week.
Also
He's like,
fired.
I need some of my days back.
I need to watch the Knicks.
Yeah.
I remember I tuned in for his last show, and I didn't really watch the Daily Show that much when he was there. I kind of took it for granted, but he said something like, what are you going to do? And he's like, I'm going to spend some time with my wife and kids. I've heard they're nice. Normally, a coach, NFL coach says that, and then the next year you got a job or whatever. A guy says that, and then 3 months later. John legit took like 5 years off of work, then did the Apple show, and then he comes back for this 1 day a week. He is truly spending time with his wife and kids, as far as we know. Like,
remember how boring I told you that shit is? It took him a year or two to figure it out.
dude, like 5 years.
He tried to Tom it. He tried to compromise base it. He was like, nah, I need some stimulus.
This photography sucks.
Let's get back in the game.
Yeah. No, it's dope though. That's why I'm excited to see what he does, especially in going into the election.
We called this, by the way. We said as soon as they needed a host, he'd be perfect.
I mean, yeah, you can't go. Especially if he's willing to do it 1 day a week. Like, shit.
Yeah.
And that's honestly, I think we've spoken about this before. There's not enough shit going on for the Daily Show to be on TV 4 days a week. They have to make shit up.
Yeah.
Like, there's really maybe one topic a week that you can talk about. And even then, it starts to get redundant. We did it when we were doing the show.
If you're really paying attention, then there's a lot to talk about.
Here's the thing. There is,
but things
there
that people care about, maybe not
okay,
so much.
even if there is a lot, let's just say there's a lot. Let's go with that. There's not 22 minutes of joke every 10, 15 seconds to talk about. You know, you can have like a podcast about what's going on and go back and forth on ideas and that kind of shit. But in order to like just say the facts of something and then write jokes accordingly, doing 5 minutes of that is a lot. And every single day, and now they got to do 22. Obviously, they have an interview portion of the show, whatever. There's just not that many major stories a week, especially they're like politically geared.
Yeah.
So they have a strategy, which is smart, which is like, they'll have things that maybe they want to talk about that are unrelated to like what's happening this week. And then they'll use a story, a headline that happened to kind of shoehorn into that topic.
John Oliver, I think, does that.
It's
Just have an awesome piece and then it'll just go up whenever.
Pardon?
Or like John Oliver will just have like an awesome like episode about something, but it's not necessarily connected to anything that's happening.
But they'll find
and they might use current events and stuff, but
a little connecting point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's really smart. And that's how you have a show and like put out a show every single day, 4 days a week. Like I remember when we were going to do it, that the one of the producers was like, and if there's something you've already thought about or you're working, you can just let us know and we'll find a headline that will work with it and then will take us in there so it seems natural. I was like, oh, that's a really smart way of getting around the fact that there's just not enough to talk about every single day. There is enough for 1 day a week. And maybe there's a little bit too much for the 1 day. But imagine going in, knowing that you're going to unload the clip, and maybe there's a little
still
extra.
doing it 4 days. It's just he's only doing it 1 day.
What I'm saying
yeah,
is,
that's why. Yeah.
Like, if I'm John, I'm like, I know there ain't 4 days of shit to talk about. But 1 day a week, I'm going to go crazy.
Yeah.
And
I can knock
it's
it out of the
Monday,
park.
so now he has everything that happened from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So who hosts the other days?
Usually one
Recurring
other
cast,
person
right?
from the cast.
Rotating cast.
The correspondence or whatever.
Yeah, one of the correspondents.
And they're going to get the bump because more people are just going to be watching the show because John's on it.
Yeah.
And then who knows? Maybe after doing 1 day, he goes, you know what? I'll do 2, or you know, there's other opportunities. But yeah, there ain't enough shit to talk about for 4 days.
Yeah.
I also don't even know if he'll do it beyond the election. I mean, I'd love if he did, but I think his idea is I'm doing this till the election. I think he thinks this election's incredibly important, and he's like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And then probably leave again. Like, the guy's the truth, man. He's the truth.
Yeah, he's incredible.